Well, good morning. Welcome back to Willow Oak Farm SC. Thanks for watching. And if you would, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe, I would appreciate it. We're back out here in the garden this morning. Got a few little things we need to do. But before we get to work, let's just take a look at it. It's been 3 weeks ago yesterday since we planted. So let's see how things are doing. Right here, I came back and planted a little cherry tomato. That's a Sweet 100. I just planted it just about a week ago. Then we'll come on down. We've got our zucchini right here. Got our 2 yellow squash right here. Those are the Rise and Shine squash, supposed to grow vertically. So we're going to see how they do. I've never grown them before. Then we'll come to our tub. I planted some carrots in this tub about a week ago. They hadn't really started germinating yet. I planted some Danvers pelleted seed. You see that little orange spot right there? A few of them have washed back to the top from this rain we've been having. We've had a good bit of rain the last few days. Then our potatoes right here. I want you to pay special attention to these potatoes because we planted some more on the other end of the garden and have a little problem with them. I want you to look how good these are doing. If you remember, if you saw me when I planted the garden, I filled that tub about halfway with soil, planted my potatoes. Then it got to growing up. I came back about a week ago and added some more soil to it. So I've got it almost to the top. And that's where we're going to leave it, not going to add any more. Then we've got a couple of jalapeno peppers. Doing good. Our cucumbers are doing good, coming along. Now over here we have 5 mountain fresh tomatoes. They're really doing good, starting to bloom on some of them. And we came around the outside with a row of bush beans. These are Blue Lake bush beans. They're all up doing well. Look like we need to do a little thinning on them, which we're going to get to in a few minutes. Then we planted 3 half rows of corn, peaches and cream corn. All look like they're doing pretty good. Our weather's been up and down. It'll be warm in the 80s, mid-upper 80s, and cool back down to the low 70s. So, but the corn's doing pretty good. We're gonna come back in a couple more weeks and plant that last half back there. And the okra, even though we've had some cool weather, the okra is doing well. Okra needs thinning also, so we're going to get here in a few minutes. Thin this okra up a little bit. Now back to the potatoes. You saw our potatoes in our tub doing really well. Well, look at here. We have got some problems with our potatoes going on. And the only thing I can figure is the soil. The soil must be bad in this one for potatoes. If you watched when I made my garden over, I moved my soil around and reused it, then came back and topped it off with a little fresh soil. There's something going on in the soil right here. It's got to be. It's the only thing difference between this and up there in a pot. Now over here we've got a couple of peppers down there, another cayenne pepper there in the center, a couple of bell peppers here. They're doing okay. They really hadn't taken off. The weather just hadn't been hot enough, warm enough for the peppers, I don't think. They like the hot weather. Then we've got a couple of blank spots on either side of that cayenne pepper. I've got a couple of tomato cages just sitting there, just get them out of the way, but we're going to come back in about another week or two and plant a couple more squash there. So that's what's going on out here. Some problem with our potatoes, going to thin the okra. We're probably going to fertilize the corn a little bit. It looked like it could use a little fertilizer. But everything else out here is doing well. Well, let's look inside here. Let's do this side first. Once again, got our Blue Lake bush beans, and they are really hopping. They are doing well, and they need thinning. So we're going to thin them also. That's going to be on our list for a few minutes. Over here, we've got our onions in the front, and I'm disappointed in my onions. They are just not doing like they ought to be. But hey, it is what it is. Now we've got our four big beef tomatoes here. They're really doing good. You see we got blooms on them, and I saw a little tomato right there on a couple of them. And you see how I'm taking these clips right here and just clipping to the string, and they're just gonna keep moving up the string. They're doing good. Well, there are 3 more little tomatoes right there. So they are really doing good. We need to sucker them. As you can see, here's a sucker right here. Let's see if we can pinch it off. Another sucker right here. So we need to go through and sucker our tomatoes. We sucker these indeterminate ones, and they just keep growing up, but we don't sucker our determinate ones. Now let's look at our green stalk here. What I did is in the bottom row, I planted, once again, Blue Lake bush beans. Doing a side-by-side comparison. See how they grow there versus here. Then I came back about 2 weeks later, a week and a half, decided to plant this second row with beans also. Look like they're about to catch up with the bottom ones. Got some petunias right here, and petunias on top. Now I planted some more carrots around in this second run right here. Same thing, the Danvers pelleted ones. And they are germinating a little bit, not much. So we're gonna see how the green stalk does. Like I say, the bottom 2 runs we have bush beans, the Blue Lake bush beans, just like over here. Okay, well let's get to work. I believe the first thing we're going to do is start on the okra. So let's go out there and thin our okra. Okay, let's thin our okra out. So start at the back. Best thing about being next to the pasture is I can just throw them over the fence to the pasture. Okay, that's our first thinning. They're going to need to be thinned a little bit more, but I'm not going to do it quite yet. Let them get a little bit bigger. Now I'm going to take this little spade or fork, whatever you want to call it here, and I'm just going to break up the crust a little bit around them. Okay, there you have it. That's going to do it for the okra. Let's take a look at it. You see I just came in here and I thinned it lightly. It still needs to be thinned some more. I'm going to wait till it gets up a little bit higher. I thin a little bit at a time. That way if I have any to die, I can move a couple around or whatever. I've got it weeded, our first thinning, and got the crust broke up. Now let's move over and work on the corn right here. Okay, what we're going to do with the corn, same thing. I'm just going to break up the crust a little bit. I'm going to add a little fertilizer. And I'm using 1717. The reason for that is because that's what I got. So, see a few weeds I need to pull out first. Let's get them. That wet weather we've been having is really making these weeds pop out. That's okay, it's making the grass grow too. All right, I've got that broke up. Let's add a little fertilizer. I'm not gonna put a whole lot. I'd rather add a little bit several times than add too much and burn it up. Now I'm just gonna work that in easy. Okay, that didn't take long, now did it? Let's take a look at it. Well, you can see I got the crust broke up. Got a little fertilizer down, got it worked in, ready for those showers this evening. Now I know that is not a whole lot of corn. And if you watch my video when I planted my garden, I don't plant a whole lot. I plant a little bit here, then I'll add the back half here in another week or two. This just so I can come out here, pull 2 or 3 ears at a time, take them in and eat them, me and my wife. Or take some to my family. When it comes time to can or to freeze corn, I'll buy it. Not far from here, just a few miles, there is a lot of farming going on. There's a lot of bottomland and there's a lot of corn grown. And it's easier for me to go buy it to put in the freezer than it is to plant an acre of corn. So this is just a pull and eat. Okay, now what we're going to do, same thing. We're going to get on these tomatoes and beans right here. Same thing, we're going to pull a few weeds. We're going to break up the crust and might fertilize them lightly. Tell you the truth, I believe I'm going to come back right now, throw a little fertilizer out for this okra, just lightly, and work it in a little bit. So I'm going to do that right quick, then we'll get on the tomatoes. Okay, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take our little tool here and break up the crust. But before I do, I'm going to take my pocket knife and I'm going to cut a few of these lower limbs that are dragging the bottom. Okay, that's done. Let's get to scratching. I'm going to have to take my little hand tool and get inside those cages and scratch around the tomatoes. Well, I went back, got my little hand tool. We're going to get inside these cages around these tomatoes. Now that's just how easy, simple it is. And you can see sometimes the hardest part is getting back up. All right, well that's all we're gonna do out here. Let's go in here under the plastic. All right, same thing. What we're gonna do, come down here, thin these out, scratch them up, give them a little fertilizer. As I said, I saved my own seeds, my beans here and my okra. So I've got plenty of seeds. Didn't cost a thing. I just like to plant them thick Make sure I get good germination. Sometimes it is hard to make yourself pull up good plants, but you just have to bite the bullet and do it. The goats and chickens will appreciate it. I'm going to put out just a dirt dab fertilizer. Same thing, we're going to work it in. Let's work that in now. There you have it. Well, that's all we're going to do out in the garden this morning. Got everything scratched up. Most everything fertilized a little bit. Got our beans thin, our okra thin, the first thinning. Now, it's going to have a little more thinning done on it. But everything in the garden's looking real well, except our potatoes over there. And it's just, only thing I know, it's just a soil issue, a soil issue. If anybody's got any advice or suggestions, I appreciate you putting them in the comments. I might be old, but I'm never too old to learn. Got all that scratched up, a little fertilizer down. Calling for showers this evening. I know the humidity is through the roof right now in South Carolina. But what we need to do is jump out here and cut the grass. So that's all for now. We'll check back in the garden a little later. I hope it continues to do as good as it's doing. Well, it's been a couple of days since we worked the garden. And just as predicted, that evening the rain came in. Rained all that night, most of the next day. Got just a little over 3 inches. And yes, I did get the grass cut. So now we're just going to keep our eye on the garden and give it what it needs. If it stays dry and needs a little water, we'll give it a little water. If we think it needs a little fertilizer, we'll give it a little fertilizer. And then we'll check back in next week and see how it's looking. So until then, I hope you have a great week.